right? Your specialization in accounting and finance. So this unit called Introduction to Taxation chapter. Your subject is theory and practice of taxation. So I can service. This is your syllabus. The actual name of your course is theory and practice of taxation. So we have to cover almost 10 units, 10 topics, but in overall, we can classify it as uh, three or four chapters, right? The functions and principle of taxation. So the basic idea of basic understanding of taxation and tax system of Sri Lanka and personal tax, income tax, right? There are different types of taxes in Sri Lanka. Our focus is limited to only with income taxation. So 80% of the area we will cover. We will focus on income tax and 10 to 15 or 20% area of your syllabus weight on value added tax, right? So the tax system in Sri Lanka especially focus on in here uh, income tax, right? So under the income tax there are different headings. Now we will start our lesson with the basics, introduction, concepts, principles of taxation in Sri Lanka. And together 31 students up to now have linked, joined the Zoom. 45 students, isn't it, in your class? Um, who is the coordinator in your class? Coordinator, please raise your hand voluntarily. Anybody of you? So I can pass the message to that person, and that person, that coordinator, can disseminate the information. And if you have any queries, problems, you can contact through that person who is ready to do that. I didn't see anybody of you. Mm, please suggest one person at least. People are silent. Anyhow, we will go to the session. Right. Introduction to taxation. So for this course, I have used charted study pack, right? Charted study pack, and I will upload soft copy of that study pack. You can use that for your readings, right? Recommended reading. So apart from this, time to time I will upload some materials, PowerPoint slides, uh, but our focus is on this book, right? Chartered study pack. Right. Now we will start the introduction to taxation. Right. So in this session, you will learn the functions of taxation together with principle of taxation. Furthermore, Sri Lankan tax system, including major taxes and respective collecting authorities, are described in this chapter. Right? Uh, Here, the chapter content. So, introduction to taxation and the functions and principle of taxation and current tax system in Sri Lanka. Right. So, what is tax? What is tax? Badu, no? In Sinhala, it's called Badu, isn't it? So people are silent. Then I will say the name and tell, right? Aruni MS32. So what is a singular term for tax? Aruni MS32. Please unmute your mic and tell the exact word in Sinhala. Tax. Are you there? Sound is not clear. I don't know why. Uh, okay, is it audible now? Aruni, can you hear? Can you hear my sound, my voice? Rajika, MS13, can you hear? Can you hear? Okay, others are being silent. Anyhow, so time to time I will ask questions. Um, I will call the name too, right? Right. Now we will. So what's the exact word in singular for tax? Badu, isn't it? You can unmute your mic and you can talk freely with me. So it is an interactive session. So both of us should speak, should make a conversation, right? Janan, MS39. So what is the word for tax? Right? People are not respond. Please unmute your mic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is the exact word for tax in Sinhala? Who can tell the name tax in Sinhala? Nobody knows. Yoga Raja, MS76. Right.
don't know the singular word, but I know the Tamil word only.
Others, Naomi, what's the word in singular for tax? Everybody of us are paying tax. How many of you agree? We are paying tax. Everybody of us. Hmm. Right. Anyhow, as far as I know, the singular word for the tax is the badu, but I don't know exactly is correct or not. Yeah. Right. And MS 12 says yes. I agree. We all are paying tax, right? So tax is a compulsory payment, right? It's not an optional. We have to pay, right? It's a tax is a tax. It's a compulsory payment or contribution made by a citizen of a country to the government for the benefit of the country, right? The government collects revenue in the form of taxes, charges, levies, fines, etc. So, in simple terms, the tax is a compulsory payment to the government without expecting any direct benefit. It's called tax, right? Tax is a compulsory payment to the government without expecting any direct benefit from the government. That is called tax, right? So there are key things for the definition of tax. It's a compulsory payment and paid by the citizens to the government, right? For the benefit of the country, not for our self benefit. The government collects revenue, right? The taxes, the government collect revenue, generate revenue in many ways. So we call tax, charges, levies, fines. These are the ways of income of government. The tax is the major portion of income of income of the government. In taxation, the taxes are imposed in two forms as direct tax and indirect tax. Right? We can divide the tax into two: direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax. So, so when I ask question, some people don't know whether we are paying tax or not. Anyhow, I already told that all of us are paying tax, right? When you make a call, make right. When you make a call, they will charge for the service. In that mobile charge, they will collect tax, right? If call charge 1 rupees, the dialer company fixed per minute 1 rupees, then they will charge how much? 1 rupees and 30 cents or so. So 1 rupees is belong to the dialogue company and 30 cents belongs to the government. That is tax, right? But we don't know we are paying tax, right? In taxation, taxes are imposed in two forms as direct tax and indirect tax. A direct tax is levied directly on personal or corporate income, whereas indirect tax is levied on price of goods or services, right? So normally, so in this course we are uh, in this course unit we are discussly or focus on income tax, right? The person who are getting earning income, the government will impose a tax, collect tax from that person directly. That is income tax, tax on income. Another tax, indirect tax, when we purchase goods and services, so we pay tax, we pay price. The price includes both the cost of the item and the tax portion, right? Especially VAT, value added tax, right? The functions and principle of taxation, right? So the function of taxation can be can mainly separated into primary function, economic function, and social function. Primary function is a what? So what is the ultimate purpose of imposing tax by the government? What is the purpose? Raising money, raising money for the public expenditure. The government, as a we are as a citizen of the country, we expect some services from the government. For that services, government need money. The major part of that money is generated by the government through tax, right? The function of taxation can be mainly separated into a primary function, economic function, and social function. Primary function of tax, raising fund for the public expenditure, is the primary function of taxation, right? So ultimate objective of collecting tax is meeting public expenditure. Public expenditure in Sri Lanka, there are a number of services provided by the state government at free of charge or at subsidized rates for our citizens. Say, for example, we can say uh, services provided by the government, security. So, the army, navy, air force, police, they are providing the services, but we are not paying for them, right? Law and order provided by armed forces and police, we are not pay them, but government has paid on behalf of us. Free education provided by the government schools and universities, right? For that, government need money. Free medical services provided by the government hospitals, we are not paid for that, government paid for that. Maintenance of road network, supply of electricity, water at subsidized rate, right? So when you look at at your light bill, we can find, right, a portion of your bill paid by the government. And it should not be necessarily mentioned that the state is the government, is required to incur expenditure as salaries, right? Wages, investments in capital assets, etc. In providing such services to its citizen, the state, the government is required to collect fund to finance such public expenditure. So there are public servants, right? The government has built a lot of buildings. So all for that, government need money. These monies are collected by the tax, major part. So thus, raising fund for public expenditure is the primary function of taxation, right? So keep it in your mind. The primary function of tax is raising fund to meet public expenditure, right? And the second function is a social function, and third function is a economic function. Social function mean uh, the government has some responsibilities to uh, make a better society, right? Make a better citizens of Sri Lanka, right? So economic function of tax here to set local and foreign investment directions, right? Set local and foreign investment directions. Uh, in Sri Lanka, there are a lot of investment opportunities out there, right? So some foreigners willing to make some investment in Sri Lanka, right? uh, the government sometimes motivate that kind of investment, sometimes demotivate or demotivate that kind of investments. If that investment is benefit to Sri Lanka, they will allow and they encourage. Government has encouraged that kind of investments, local as well as for investment. And there are some investment opportunities, business opportunities. Government try to stop that kind of investment, right? The state could encourage or discourage private sector investment by using taxation tools such as rates and incentives, right? Say if any business or an organization want to start new business in Sri Lanka, if it is benefit for the country in way of providing employment opportunities and contribute for the economic development, government definitely will encourage that investment using the tax. right? They will give tax relief for them, right? For a certain period of time, they don't want to pay tax on that profit they have generated. It protect local industries from foreign competition, right? Nowadays, many items come from China at lower cost. Therefore, Sri Lankan manufacturers are unable to make and sell that product in our local market. Therefore, the government try to stop this kind of imports from the outside, from China or other countries by using tax. So the tax is a tool, right? So vital local industries could be protected from foreign competition via tools such as import taxes. Then social function, right? Primary function, economic function, third, social functions. So discourage activities which are undesirable by the society, right? So there are some activities in the society government wanted to stop that kind of things. Say for example, liquor, right? Liquor usage, tobacco usage, right? So the government wanted to reduce that kind of activities. Tax tools could be used to curb undesirable activities such as consumption of liquor, right, and tobacco or gambling, that kind of thing, gaming and gambling. So these kind of things are not desirable in the society, and encourage activities which are desirable by the society. There are some activities government societies among the society the government wanted to encourage. So desirable activities such as savings, retirement investment, innovations, research and development, etc., could be encouraged via tax system. Right? If you have started a new business which provides innovations, right? Which provides a new way of new. You have identified new way of make some product. So government will give you motivations. So through tax, they will give motivations by reduced tax. Sometimes government will give you grant. Reduce income disparity between rich and poor. The government will charge more tax on high wealthy people, right, rich people, and give some sort of subsidies to the poor people. Say Samurdhi, Divanagume, so that kind, Janasakti, so that kind of things given to the given to poor people by the government, and they charge high tax on rich people. It will make uh, some it will reduce in imbalance of income distribution. Income inequality in the society could be reduced via tax system using progressive tax rates and rebates, etc. Right? So now we will look at principle of taxation. Principles sometimes called as policies, right? The good practices of tax. Designing and implementation of tax system is based on number of principles, policies, right? Principle of taxation, principles on which the state should be guided by designing and implementing a tax system are considered as principle of taxation, right? When they design and implement, the government have some policies, so that's called as principle of taxation. This principle of taxation includes number one, equity. Equity means all people should be treated equally, right? And the higher tax burden should be borne by the rich people, and the lower tax burden should be borne by the poor people. So that's called equity, right? Tax burden, right? Tax burden should be equal among persons in similar economic circumstances. As Adam Smith, the father of economics, right? As Adam Smith put it forward, subject to every state how to contribute toward the support of the government as nearly as possible in proportion to their respective abilities. So the tax should be paid to the government based on the ability of taxpayer, right? So lower income people pay lower income tax to the government, and the high people, rich people, should pay a big amount of money to the government. So the following are the two equity principles. So the first one is benefit principle and ability to pay principle. Benefit principle mean the person who are getting more benefit, they should pay more tax. The person who are getting low benefit, the person should pay low tax. So that is called benefit principle. And ability to pay principle is that if the person able to pay more tax, he should pay more tax. If the person unable to pay tax, the government not collect tax from them. The benefit principle arises from the need that the greatest beneficiaries should make a great tax contribution. In this case, identification of received benefit is very complicated. So in practical nature, it is very difficult to find which persons are getting higher benefit. So therefore, ability to pay principle forms a better alternative for equity in taxation. Accordingly, ability to pay principle can be categorized into two scenarios: horizontal equity and vertical equity. So horizontal equity means that we give the same treatment, the government give the same treatment to all people in identical situation, right? So for example, if there are two people who earn 1 million per month, so they should pay the same amount of tax, right? For all, so regardless of their income, the government pay charges, imposes a tax. That's called horizontal equity. In the view of the government, all peoples are equal. So therefore, all of them should pay tax equally. So it's not work. So therefore, they uh, look into vertical equity, right? Vertical equity means the people with high income should pay more tax, and low income people should pay less taxes. So vertical equity seeks to tax in progressive way. So people with higher ability to pay should pay more tax to the government. So if you are under the vertical equity, so if anybody gets high income, they should pay high tax. Certainty, right? It's not doubtfulness, right? Without ambiguity, the tax should be certainty. The taxpayer should clearly know. So at what rate we have to pay tax, when we have to pay tax, to whom we have to pay tax, how often we have to pay tax. That kind of information should be very clearly, they should know, right? Certainty, tax should be certain, as uncertainty will lead to tax evasions, doubtfulness. The time of payment, the manner of payment, the quantity to be paid out, all to be clear and planned to the taxpayer and to every other person. A successful function of an economy requires that the people, especially the business class, must be certain about the sum of tax that they could have to pay on their income from work or investment, right? So especially individual business persons or corporations should have a clear idea that when they have to pay tax, how much they have to pay tax, to whom to have to pay tax. So everything they should know, right? It's common for all. And convenient and voluntary compliance. Convenience. The collection of text should be should be very convenient, right? Everybody can understand without any complexities. Right? A tax should be implemented conveniently to taxpayer while encouraging voluntary compliance, right? For example, income tax is collected on installment basis is convenient, right? And there are a lot of people in Sri Lanka, they go and pay tax without forced by force them by the authorities. Economy, efficient, right? Economy. So the government should collect taxes with a minimum collection cost, right? If the tax system is complicated, elaborated administrative machinery should be employed to collect taxes, and consequently collection cost will be relatively larger. In order to achieve economy in the tax collection, the tax should be simple as possible. And the next principle is progressivity. Progressivity. So tax burden should be proportionate to the taxpayer's income level and ability to pay. Right? Progressive. Say for example, in a year you have to pay tax for 1 million. Then if government tell you that you have to pay this 1 million at once, so it is very difficult to taxpayer. So therefore the government has given option, so you can pay the tax in installment basis, right? So that kind of things. The ultimate expectation of this principle is to ensure that people with high income pay more taxes than people with lower income. And efficiency, right? Efficient. The tax system should be an efficient one. A tax is said to be efficient when the cost of collecting tax is lower compared with collected tax revenue, right? The tax is a revenue. To make that revenue, there are some costs. So there are people at the Department of Inland Revenue, right? So the collection cost should be less than the revenue. That's called efficient, right? And adequacy, tax collection should be sufficient to cover expected portion of public expenditure, right? Every year, government put a budget, prepare a budget, right? The budget is financed mainly through tax revenue of the government. So broad base, the tax system should be wide enough to include the various sectors in the society and population, whereby minimizing individual tax burden, right? And it should be include the various sectors in the society. And simplicity, simple. So an average taxpayer should be able to understand the imposition, assessment, and payment of tax. It's not be so complex. It's easy to pay. So people able to, if the tax system is simple, the taxpayer easily understand the tax system and they can pay the tax on time. Right. It should be noted that all the taxes imposed may not have all the desired principles mentioned above. Everyone is required to comply with tax regulations once enacted, even if they are inconsistent with any of principles, right? So you can't argue. So in our tax system, we couldn't find equity, progressivity, simplicity. No, you can't argue, right? That's the principles, right? Not the rules. Now we will discuss direct and indirect taxes. taxes can be broadly declassified into two different uh, categories. That is direct tax and indirect tax. So difference between direct tax and indirect taxes are is given in this table, right? So first column is about direct tax and second column is about indirect tax. So imposition of payment. Uh, under direct tax, direct taxes should be paid by the taxpayer directly to the government. Right? If you are a rich person, right, you should pay tax. So by yourself, you put the tax. You deposit the tax amount into the bank to the government address, to the Department of Inland Revenue. So indirect tax, you don't know that you are paying tax, right? Indirect taxes are collected by a person other than the person on whom the tax is imposed. And the tax burden cannot be shifted in the direct tax, right? If Mr. Uh, X is a taxpayer, that the Mr. X only is able to pay tax, should pay tax, right? On behalf of X, no one can take that responsibility. So tax burden cannot be shifted, but under the indirect tax burden can be shifted to the final consumer, right? And the collection cost is high unless there is voluntary compliance under the direct tax, and low collection cost in under the indirect tax. And tax burden, generally direct taxes are progressive, right? And indirect taxes have a regressive impact. Right? Example, that's the example for direct tax is income tax, and the example for indirect taxes are value added tax, VAT, and NBT, nation building taxes. Right. Let us discuss the current tax system in Sri Lanka. Current tax system in Sri Lanka. Uh, Let us discuss about tax authorities in Sri Lanka. Right? The current tax system in Sri Lanka is administered by a number of government departments. Say, for example, the Department of Inland Revenue and the Provincial Department of Revenue, the Department of Customs, Department of Excise, and so on. Right? These are the major bodies who collect tax from citizen of Sri Lanka, from the taxpayer. Right? The Department of Inland Revenue has been distinguished. Sorry, Department of Inland Revenue has been designated as the administrative authority for various tax imposed via Parliamentary Act. A Parliamentary Act. The role of Department of Inland Revenue is captured in the mission statement of the department. So you can find the mission statement here, and you can find, right? You can find there. So the main tax administered by the Department of Inland Revenue. So under the department, under this department, they are administrating income tax, the major part, income tax, value added tax, nation building tax, stamp duty under the Stamp Duty Special Provision Act, economic service charges, construction industry guarantee fund levy. According to 2016 budget proposal, construction industry guarantee fund levy has removed with effect from 1st of January 2016, no longer available. Now, let us discuss the Provincial Department of Revenue under the provincial government, provincial council. Provincial council were established under the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, and Provincial Department of Revenue entrusted with certain revenue collection within respective provinces. Currently, the following taxes and charges are collected by Provincial Department of Revenue under the provincial status. Stamp duty, like when you buy and sell properties, land, so you have to pay stamp duty. It's a tax. Mineral tax, mineral, right? Drug and chemical tax, lottery tax, price competition tax, the betting tax. These kind of taxes are imposed by the Provincial Department of Revenue under the Provincial Council. TT, right? TT means turnover tax, was administered by Provincial Department of Revenue till its abolishment on 31st December 2010. So TT also no longer available now in Sri Lanka. Right. Then Department of Customs. So another authority to collect taxes in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Customs is responsible for collection of taxes on imports and exports. Furthermore, the Department of Customs is playing a major role in controlling and monitoring imports and exports of restricted and prohibited goods of environmental, health, and social and security concern. Right? There are some items is prohibited by the government to import from foreign countries. So this restriction is done by Department of Customs, right? There are some items is not prohibited, but the government wanted to reduce that kind of imports. Say liquor, right? Very expensive because of tax, higher tax. So government wanted to reduce uh, that kind of imports. And Department of Exercise Department of Exercise is entrusted with efficient and effective administration of liquor and tobacco industry in Sri Lanka through collection of revenues and the prevention of illicit manufacture and sale of such products for development and welfare of the society and the enforcement of position opium and dangerous drugs ordinance for the social production of Sri Lanka. Right exercise. Especially they are focusing on liquor and tobacco. They are charging a big amount of tax on that kind of things. So the government wanted to make a good society in Sri Lanka. Right. Now let's look at the major taxes in Sri Lanka. So the following are the major taxes. The first one is income tax. Income tax is a direct tax levied on income of every person. The Commissioner General of Inland Revenue is empowered to collect income tax. So income tax is, to collect income tax, the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue (CGIR) in simple say in abbreviate we say CGIR, Commissioner General of Inland Revenue. And value added tax, VAT. VAT is the main indirect tax levied to the final consumer of product and services, and it is administered by the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue. So VAT also administered by CGIR. However, it is collected at the point of importation or from the manufacturer and traders based on their value addition with the view of avoiding the cascading effort to tax on tax, so value added tax, right? So we'll study in detail about the VAT. So nation building tax, NBT. NBT is the another tax which is imposed on turnover in Sri Lanka with effect from 1st of February 2009 and handled by the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue. Second, next one is the ESC, Economic Service Charges. So ESC charges is a direct tax which lived on business turnover of every person of partnership. It's not on individual, right? It's on every person uh, or partnership administered by the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue, CGIR. Right? And in economic service charge and import duties. Import duties are the levied at various rates on importation of goods into the country, and and its Director General of Customs is responsible for administrating import taxes. The next one in an stamp duty. Then stamp duty. Stamp duty is charged on every specified instrument, right? It's on instrument like deeds and financial instrument like shares, like that. Stamp duty is charged on every specified instrument. So it's executed or drawn or presented in Sri Lanka or executed outside Sri Lanka, being an instrument which relates to the property situated in Sri Lanka at the time such instrument was presented in Sri Lanka. At the rate specified by the minister by order published in Gazette, it is imposed on the certain documents and charged on prescribed rates on the value of documents. Stamp duty is governed by the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue and the Provincial Revenue Commissioner with their capacity. And the share transaction levy, so it's on share transactions. So share transaction levy is levied on both seller and buyer of shares on the same transaction when shares are transferred through the Colombo Stock Exchange. And exercise duties. Excess duty are mainly charged on the sale of liquor and tobacco products in Sri Lanka by Excise Commission. Right. So that's all about today's session. Right. Uh, Now I will collect your attendance. Right. Uh, don't post your Attendance. Right. Any questions to ask? Any questions? Right. I will give you a link. Right. You click the link, automatically your attendance will be recorded in my attendance sheet. Right. Here I have uploaded. Here I have shared a link in chat box. You click the chat box and fill it. Right. Then attendance will be counted, and system also will count it. Your attendance. I will compare. System automatically will compare. Right. Right. This is the link. You can, by clicking this link, you can give your attendance. Don't post your numbers on chat box.